Welcome to Sociable Art. This is Ariane, and today we're going to paint Autumn Reflections. And I have sketched the design on a 16 by 20 canvas, but you can purchase a printed canvas and a paint at home kit at sociableart.com. That's SOCIABLE.com. And here's an example of the printed canvas that you would get. This is an 11 by 14, and there are also 9 by 12s available. And it comes with paint and brushes that you need to paint. And you can paint along on this video. So I have put my paints into a palette. And the first thing that I'm going to do is paint the dark areas with a medium-sized brush. So the dark brown, the raw umber areas that are around the canoe or the boat. And so I'm right now just doing the part that's right alongside, right in the middle of the canvas alongside the canoe and then alongside the dock area. And I'm just using straight raw umber for this, kind of outlining a little and then filling in the area in between. And I've left a little area next to the canoe for the side of the canoe to be, kind of fading into the water there. And I'll just continue to fill in, and then you'll see me filling in on both sides of the canoe and then on the other side of the dock with this raw umber. And I just want to make the comment that, as always, with all of my videos, I'm going to tell you how to paint this painting step by step if you want it to look, similar to one that I painted. But you can paint it any way you want. Please feel free to change the colors and do it the way that you like. And maybe the style of painting, if you do a different style like watercolor or something like that, please do it your way. And on the printed canvases too, you have such leeway to fill it in the way that you want to. And I always say too that brush strokes matter. So right here I'm doing a horizontal stroke and I'm kind of trying to outline around this boat a little bit. But eventually I'm going to try to do my brush strokes in the same direction once I kind of outline around this area. And I also like to paint the sides of my canvas. If you're doing the printed canvas sheet, you won't have to worry about that. But on this, I'm going to be painting the sides of the canvas as well. So it'll be able to hang it just as it is. So once I kind of outline around that kayak, my brush strokes will be vertical, going up into the water area next to the boat. And the one thing I don't want is for this brown area to end in one, like a straight line. Because then when I go to put the next color, that straight line of brown will really show, and you'll see that underneath the next color. Just have to take my word for it. It's better to do like a broken line like this. And here I am just painting with the raw umber on the other side of the boat dock. And it can be kind of difficult to do straight lines with your brush, and I do find it's easier to do it with a medium brush with a nice nice bristles rather than trying to use a skinny little brush. But you just want to put your paint into your brush bristles and then flatten that paintbrush out and get the excess paint out of it on your palette or on a plate. And then you should have a nice edge to use to do lines along, straight lines along like this pier. And also, you might find it easier, I know I do, to find it easier to do straight lines if the canvas is flat on the table. So you might just take it down off your easel if you're using one, or just, you can paint the whole thing flat on the table as well. And I'm also going to use this brown paint to do a few vertical lines up in the area up above, and a few horizontal lines as well. And those are supposed to represent some tree trunks that are reflected in the water, and just some darker shadowed areas as well. So I'm going to add a few of those right here on this side. And what I'm doing is I'm making them sort of wavery, you know, like they're in the water. So where they're straight lines when you look at them on the shoreline, but in the water, they're a little, the ripples of the water have made them slightly wavy. And I know it looks like that line, the lines I just did are kind of crooked, and that's only because of the angle of the canvas in this video. I mean, they are going to be wavery, but they're not going to be at an angle, is what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to continue to add some of those lines for tree trunks, and then we'll be moving on to our next step in a moment. And sometimes throughout this process, you might see me paint over into some of the, like if you see me do lines that go into the boat area or onto the dock area, sometimes I just want to do that for the continuity of the brush strokes, and I always correct that area where I painted it into the boat or the dock. Okay, so I've decided also that since I'm using the brown already, I'm going to go ahead and paint the dark shadowed areas in the interior of the canoe. And I put dots first to show these are the areas I want to paint, because when I've taught this painting before, people get confused about what are the seats and what are the parts that are the bottom of the boat that you're seeing. So just look at it very carefully and make sure that you paint the correct areas this dark shadowy brown color. There should be 2 wooden slats in the boat that are seats, and then a bow area up front that is not painted. So just look carefully at the picture that comes with your kit, or at the picture that on the front of this video, to see where the shadowed areas are. And I am painting around the oars here, but if you want to, you could just paint right through the oar handles and everything. It's a lot easier than painting all the way around them. So I'm just going to continue to fill in these shadowed areas. And when I move over to the left side of the boat, I might lighten up the shadow just a little, because that is the area of the boat where the sun might be shining in just a little bit. just doing a little bit of outlining here with the brown. This is around the trim area, around the top of the boat. And then I can also add just a little bit on this, oh, what are those called? I can't think of what they're called, the little pylon things that you rope off to when you bring your boat into the dock. So I'm just adding a dark shadowed area on one side of that, because the other side will be in the light. But one side is shadowed, and then also adding just a few streaks of the raw umber on the boat dock. And the thing about this boat dock, it's kind of hard to tell because I have the canvas at an angle in this video, but your lines for your planks on your boat dock will be parallel to the line at the bottom of your canvas. So people have a tendency to want to turn these lines a different way, but you have to trust me on this with the perspective. They would kind of follow parallel to that line on the bigger wide area at the bottom of the canvas. So I'm just adding a few little lines, darker lines in there, and then down here on the bottom, that's just going to be the shadowed areas on the dock. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is add the red that's on the side of the boat. But I don't want to use the red straight because it's a little bit bright to me. So I'm going to add some of the raw umber to dull it just a little bit. And I'm leaving a line along the top there that's kind of some trim on the boat. And then underneath that we have the red with the raw umber. I'm just going to fill in this area all the way down to the shadowed area in the water, which I have filled with the raw umber. And there's just a teeny portion on this other side too that's got some red there that you can see. And I've done a small portion of the red right on top of that brown down there where some of the boat is a little bit submerged, or you might have some of the red reflections on the water there. So that's what I'm doing right here, just adding a little red on top of that brown. Now that we have that done, we can move on to adding the reflections in the water. And it's really a good idea to kind of move from color to color so they'll all be wet at the same time and you can blend them and haze them together. And right here, you can see what I'm doing here in the video is I'm adding just a little more of the raw umber on top of the other raw umber in that area, because sometimes you need a couple coats to make it really nice deep color. But anyway, I'm going to start with the green and start adding the reflections here into the water. And if you don't like the shade of the green that you have in your kit or that you have at home, you can change it by adding yellow to it. You can add a little orange to it and you'll get an interesting shade of green, or add a little bit of brown to it. So try some different shades of green and see which one you like best. And remember, what we're doing here is we're trying to make it look like the fall trees are reflecting in the water. So there are some that are still green, and that's why we have green in the water. And then there will be some other fall colors. And you see I'm doing some horizontal strokes here. Most of my brush strokes are going to be vertical. And you can even add a little water to your paint to make the paint flow a little bit better. So I'm going to do mostly vertical, but some of them will be horizontal strokes. And here I've done green mixed with a little bit of brown. So I'm just going back and forth, up and down, doing these vertical strokes. And as I was saying, it's nice to kind of move from color to color. So if you can get in the habit of changing from this green color, maybe putting a little yellow right next to it so that it'll blend. Here I'm adding some of that nice golden yellow, pulling it into the green so it's going to start to blend a little. Then some horizontal strokes here, and then pulling it down into that brown that I did earlier. And I like to say with this painting too that sometimes at first you're like, I don't really get this, and I don't think my reflections really look like reflections. But this is a process of layering. So I'm doing this one coat of colors, and then I'm going to go back and add a second coat of some other colors on top of these colors. And it's then that it'll start to look more like reflections, at least in my opinion. So you saw that I also added a little bit of orange on that side. It's a little bit off of the out of view, but I'll add some more in some other areas and you'll see it. So here's a little orange mixed with yellow, and I'm adding that. I had to turn my brush horizontal just to outline the boat, but then I'm going back to the vertical strokes. And I'm having to outline the boat here. But I'm going to take those lines that I did that are at an angle, and I'm going to now turn them into vertical strokes, because we don't want any brush strokes going in a different direction. At an angle would be odd in this painting. We have horizontal and we have vertical, but we don't want that angle. So we're going to take the brush and smooth those brush strokes into the background. And here I'm taking some yellow and putting it over that area again. It's just you got to be really free with moving from color to color and blending them together on the canvas. So here I've added some really bright orange, and I'm going to want to blend that in more. But you see, I just put it right in there, and I can blend it right on the canvas. Putting some on the top of the canvas, pulling it down into that wet yellow, and then doing some vertical strokes as well. I mean, some horizontal strokes as well. And it's okay if you get that color into that boat area, because you can just fix that later. So for the rest of this background area, you'll see me doing the same thing. Vertical and horizontal strokes and switching from color to color. And this is just the first layering. Here I'm just continuing to add other layers of color on top of the ones I've already have there. More red, and then just blending with yellow on top. Yellow is great to put on top of like the green and everything because it really can, it's transparent, it'll blend well. And here I have mixed a color for the wood areas. So it is mostly white, with a little bit of raw umber and some yellow. And I've mixed that to create a kind of a wood color. And I'm going to fill in this area, but while I'm filling it in, I'll be also loading some white onto my brush in some cases, and also some areas that are darker with more raw umber. And then I'll have also some streaks of white in here, because all these streaks of color will help it to look more like wood and not like some solid color. So sometimes I have to do these angled strokes downward, but I really want my brush strokes to go across like planks on the pier. But at some point I have to outline. So I outline, and then I'll try to pull those brush strokes back into the pier like boards on the pier or dock. So I'll just continue to fill in with this wood color, and just be aware that I will add streaks of other colors. Orange, we'll add streaks of white and streaks of raw umber to make it look more like wood. And I also will use this color to fill in the seats of the boat and the bow, and eventually the oars as well, but I'll have to add some accent colors on the oars to make them stand out from the wood beneath. So I'm filling in here the bow part, and always I've left this little trim area around the top of the boat so that I can fill that in with a lighter color. But I've still got the seats to do, and I'll add some streaks of orange in. And one thing I want to comment on is that some of my lines aren't as straight as I want them, and I have some areas to touch up, and I do that all at the end. I'll take my canvas and I'll lay it flat so I can really get a straighter line, and I'll do some touch-ups then. And you can see the finished painting at the end of the video as well. And you can see here, I just paint over where the oars are. I know it looks kind of odd. It looks like the oars are going to be underneath the seats, but they won't be. I just haven't painted them yet. And it's easier for me to just paint right across those oars rather than to try and paint around them. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please like by clicking the little like symbol at the bottom, and subscribe, and shop for Sociable Art Paint at Home at sociableart.com. Thanks.